Hello everyone, and welcome to the live stream. Today we have another TOA themed live stream. We're going on characters and animation this time. This is the second one in the series. A few weeks ago we did one about environments, and so yeah, I'm going to do a little focus on the various bosses and the way they move, as well as some of the rewards that were seen from the 2A release. So today I'm joined with some of the fantastic members of the art team. We've got Mod Brow and Mod Soffan, and we've also got Mod Spear behind the scenes helping us all out. So let's start with some introductions. How's everyone doing? Let's go to you first, Mod Brow.
I'm doing so good. I have a cup of coffee.
And what are you working on at the moment?
Was that not what you were expecting? No. So I'm doing great. I'm working on some of the. I can't actually talk about what I'm working on. So quest speed running rewards. Working on that kind of stuff. I think we put out the concepts for that, so people probably can guess what I'm working on. But yeah, just working on the rewards for that.
Awesome stuff. And over to Mod Soffan. How are you doing?
I'm good. I also have a drink. I have water. Remember to
Nice.
stay hydrated. I'm working on something I can't say either. It's a really cool boss, so you have something to look forward to. It's really cool.
Awesome stuff.
That's all I can say.
It is indeed. Cool. So first up, we have some important announcements to go through before we get into the juicy animations and character work. So exclamation mark game update. This week's update brings you some tweaks to the Tombs of Amascut and the recent betas. So remember, you've only got 1 week left to test out Poison Dynamite, Quest Speedrunning, and the Wilderness boss rewards. So hop into the beta worlds and try them out. Today, another one. Exclamation mark crack the clue. Crack the clue is back. Created by the fantastic Wooks, and we're certain this year will be the best yet. The treasure hunt begins at 12 BST on Friday the 23rd of September, which is just a few days away. So keep an eye out on Wooks' YouTube channel tomorrow for an extended version. And finally, we have some merch. So exclamation mark merch. Get to relive your earliest visits to Mistland with the first of the Kufa pin and keyring sets, celebrating the iconic city of Varrock. So yeah, give that old dog a home with the limited edition Grey Stray dog pin. Get Varrock ready with the mini pin set, and keep the cold ones flowing with the Blue Moon bottle opener keyring. Or if you're feeling rather prestigious, buy yourself a Champion's Cape keyring. You can grind all these out, find out all this out more by using the command exclamation mark merch. And yeah, these look amazing. Big fan of the cape there. Seeing that gold on the lions and seeing all that reflection is really awesome to see. And also, of course, who can't love the stray dog? Yeah, it looks really good. And of course, the shout out to the bottle opener as well. Gotta find a way to open up those bevies. Sweet. So let's move on to some of the first images of the art livestream. So this is a this is a bit chaotic, isn't it?
I put this one in here. It's something that I just wanted it to go on the record, just almost just for the history books. This was our pre-production board, our initial pre-production board for TOA. We won't dwell on this too long, but this was infamous for people working out in TOA. This was, I don't know if people have used Miro, but it's an online whiteboard program, and we had filled it with so much reference, so much backstory and lore and reference images and stuff like that, that it really chugged your computer. It really slowed your computer down if you loaded up this board. We were at something like 5,000 or 6,000 items on this board. And so if we go to the next few images, this was a zoomed out view. Zoom in, each one of these areas has a bit of detail, or quite a bit of detail. Each one of these panels, these bigger square panels, are you can see there that says Baba Boss NPC. So if you look back at that original image, you can see all the little squares. Those are actually those squares, and they're full of more squares and more squares, and an infinite level of recursive reference and assets that go into those. So so we did a lot of planning we sat down and
Yeah.
we planned out a lot of stuff when we started on TOA, and in fact, this isn't even the full board. This is a section of the board. I thought it was too abstract if I showed the full board. So
Yeah, I think this is just the bosses, environments, and some of the minions, I believe.
yeah, but it doesn't show the last boss. Like, it doesn't show the warden's room, the treasure room, the nexus, the lobby. All that was a separate section of this board. So, or the rewards as well. So, yeah, just wanted to get it out there because I don't know if people find it interesting, but just to show the level of detail that we try to plan things out and really dive deep into these things. We really try to make things feel connected, cohesive, and really try to explore a lot of different ideas, before we kind of commit. So.
I remember when first seeing this board myself, and my first thought was like, this is so much, but this is so cool, and I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, it's definitely the most elaborate sort of planning we've done for any project. Yeah, and it goes to show what made TOA so great is having all that prep work beforehand, making sure we knew exactly the themes and visual direction we wanted to go with a lot of the characters and bosses and environments. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Sure.
I think if we move on to the fourth image, I think there's a bit more onto the bit more planning work here.
Yeah. So yeah, again, just showing more planning. This is delving into the Pantheon. So in the raid, the first time you go through Apmakin, Krondis, Het, and Scabrous are all there, and you're freeing them from the bosses of each path. Sorry. So part of I think Beneath Cursed Sands, we actually ended up doing a bit of it, but part of this update, we wanted to update the Pantheon, because if anyone remembers the original Pantheon character models, they were pretty rough. Very old school, but kind of I would say in a bad way. They were kind of like just human bodies with, and granted that is what Egyptian gods did look like, human bodies with just animal heads, but there was definitely room for a bit more character in them, because they were very just kind of one note. So
yeah, and while a few of them worked reasonably well, I do think Scabrous was maybe a bit awkward, the way they had sort of cut off, like literally I think they'd just taken a beetle and just tried to merge it onto a human body, and it did look quite awkward.
Yeah.
And I think what was done with the exploration and just sort of building into those characters just makes them a lot more memorable and a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, if we go into the next image, cool. Just more exploration. I guess just showing you guys, hey, we do a heck of a lot planning wise. Just for reference, I think all of the stuff that you've seen so far was probably done like a year ago, something like that, close to it, where we were really just sitting down and just early stages of pre-production, going, what the hell is all this going to look like? What are these characters? What are we going to do with the art? We just sat down, just mapped it all out, just kind of explored some ideas, tried to just tie everything together to make it, the best possible thing it could be, and then I think the next image is kind of the result of that. I threw in, so throughout this, I've just tried to throw in as much alternate artwork as possible, like sketches that didn't make the cut or sketches that were just explorations, because I think most of the final concepts have been put out on the wiki and posted on Twitter. So just keep an eye out for anyone that likes those kind of weird alternative pieces of art of ideas we didn't go with. You can see here I threw in this is Maud Jerv's exploration she did on the Pantheon. You can see there's some interesting color combinations on the right hand side there. Those were the initial passes on these three guys, Apican, Het, and Krondis, respective. Sorry, West, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, well, I mean, I do prefer the direction we went with the final Pantheon. That headpiece that Het's wearing is so cool, and it does remind me of that lion head helm I think you made about a year ago, which was a player design.
Yeah, that it accidentally got put in the files. That was my bad. Just on the record, that was actually my bad. I accidentally left that in the code, and I got told off for that. Also, I guess shout out. We have the final models there in the bottom left-hand corner. A shout out to Matt Skylark, who, I mean, to be honest, I think she really hit it out of the park. This is like these, the goal of any 3D artist is to try to make like the concept really come to life in 3 dimensions, and I mean she nailed it. These are like such good renditions of the concept that it's like, you know, you see the 3D and you're like, wow, that looks like the concept. You're like, it's almost indistinguishable. She did just
I mean,
an insane job with these.
Yeah, you can see some slight differences though that happen during the making as well. So you can see on Scabrous, he initially had these sort of protrusions from the head that sort of went up in spikes. I think once we got into 3D, that was sort of revised a little bit because it didn't work quite the same way. And also, of course, the posing. You know, there's different animations and the way that brings, you know, slightly different poses in if you look like Applicant and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of poses and animations, let's go into some of the animations. So these are some of the ones. These are some of the first animations I did for TOA. There was some exploration done on these to try to, because essentially we were kind of starting from, not from scratch, but you know, we wanted to do something more with the Pantheon. We wanted to give them more of a character, and so we put down a lot of stuff working with Ed. We put a lot of stuff down in terms of lore and, you know, fleshing these guys out, and really just tried to I just tried my best to, you know, kind of breathe some life into these guys. Yeah, so all the idols are unique. They all try to kind of represent what the Pantheon is representative of. So you can see here, Prodis has her satchel of goods or whatever, being the god of resourcefulness. So yeah, and the flail, kind of a nice imagery that goes along with kind of like agriculture and stuff like that, and Het, yeah, with his scales. So yeah, these yeah. I
remember
don't know.
I remember sat with you when you were like when you were going through these animations. You were like stood behind me, like doing Het's idle animation, trying to get like you're like looking at these like make believe scales, and yeah, it was just so cool to see that sort of process.
Yeah, well, I felt like he needed to have like a really kind of regal stance, and so sometimes it's just, I don't know. I like moving my body, so yeah, so I got up and did
cool.
some silly walks. Yeah, so shout out to Mod Ghost. So he did this one. This one was awesome. Such like determination, such like yeah, walk cycles are so important for telling a story of what a character is, and I feel like you just see this and you get the idea. You get this yeah, feeling of just, yeah, purposeful kind of stride. Like, it's just good. It's just good.
So when you make animations, do you try the walk yourself?
I mean, I do. Because I feel like it says, I don't know. I feel like we all have these kind of ideas of what a person's gait or their kind of stride would be. You know, someone who's very pompous or something like that. I feel like if I told, you know, hey, walk like someone who's, you know, stuck up or who's pompous, you would have an idea of what that walk would be. And like, I feel like I like to do that just to get my mind in that kind of mindset. I mean, yeah, you know, I don't know. Animators all work differently. I'm not really an animator, but it helps me. So yeah, I did a few of these walks.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of animation. Yeah, I've been doing a little animation this week as well, and yeah, a few special attacks here and there for some weapons, and I think that's the ones that people are testing out in the Wilderness boss rework. And yeah, I might not get up and move around, but you know, just moving your hands around just gets you to know that movement and just making sure that it feels like a natural way that, you know, you would move about. Yeah. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose I remember when this comes later, but I remember because we have two swords in the office. When you were gonna do the Warden animations, we were just fighting each other and like trying to figure out like how the heck does he attack. It was fun.
Yeah. I remember I put like the swords in my. I mean, if people know what the Wardens look like, I put my two swords in my long sleeve shirt and was just kind of playing around with them. And that, yeah, I think I ended up using some of that exploration, if you want to call it that. I mean, it was just me being swords up my sleeves, but yeah.
Just to answer a few questions in the chat, someone asked if Mod Ghost still works here. He is contracting for us. He's a sort of animation contractor, so yeah, he still does some assets for us. Yeah, and also someone asked, when do we see these guys walk? I don't think they walk much during TOA, but if you've played through the first raid, if you've played through the raid once, you will know that those guys go off somewhere. They're certainly going to come back in the future at some point, and they're probably going to have to walk about. So yeah, certainly come in handy in the future.
Yeah, it's always good when you make a character to do their walk cycle, because otherwise they're just static. So yeah, I don't know if it's used too much in I think it's barely used, but yeah, going forward, we're gonna potentially see these guys in the future. So yeah.
Yep, definitely. Cool. Yeah, on to some of the the bosses.
Your favorite boss, Rob?
For no particular reason. Yeah, so let's have a little look at some exploration to begin with. So this is we've all seen the concept before, but it just goes to show some of the planning that sort of led to this concept and all the various references that were looked at. So looking at dung beetles moving those balls around and various scarabs. Some cool stuff.
Awesome. Just like love how we interpreted the wings, that kind of Egyptian wing design. Super cool.
Yeah.
Concept was made by Modgrub, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it was Modgrub.
Yeah, it looks so cool. I really like to see this little bug, the biggest bug, come to life.
It's really cool seeing the underside of it as well. Seeing how he's thought about all the different way all the legs connect, and it's really awesome. I think I mean we've not got to the model yet, but I believe it was a previous artist that I don't think they had a mod name that made the actual assets themselves.
Yeah. But I guess going on to the animation, this again, shout out to Mod Ghost. Like he did some amazing work. God, I love these. God, I look at these animations all day because there's just so many nuance. There's so many little nuances in it.
Yeah, I remember when he first saw
like flexing of the wings, like that. There's a lot of really nice details that I don't think maybe people haven't seen. Because they're probably clicking where they need to go and stuff like that. But there's a lot of nice stuff that Sorry, West, I cut you off.
Yeah, I was just saying. I remember when Modghost first saw the drool coming from Kephri's mouth, and he got really excited about what he could do with that as she's moving around. Using that as a really a way of like showing movement and like motion, which is really cool.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, we can move on to the next one. Yeah.
It's so good seeing it. Like
it's so good
correcting.
So actually, I guess this is probably a good time to mention this. People have asked, why are the animations in TOA so much better? why are they so crazy? So TOA was the first project that we actually got the entire Maya animation pipeline sorted. So all the animations in TOA for the bosses and the Pantheon were all done in Maya using just traditional rigs, and that was huge effort done internally by our tools and tech team. So they really did an awesome job at getting all that working. You could see the result basically, with a bit of tech kind of improvements, and then artistic touches. Just goes to show what it can do. I love this so much.
I mean, not to I mean, some of the work that Modghost did with the in-house tool with the jagged animator, it's very painful and slow to use, but you can push it to some limits. So while obviously my animation toolset allows way more finesse and so much more finer detail. I mean, some of this stuff could have been done before, but just the time to do it would have been so astronomical that you would never be able to really ask for that sort of time. So, the increase in the tools has made for just way more, outrageous and adventurous animations, which is and it just makes the process as well was way easier. Using the in-house tool is it's quite painful at times because it doesn't have any of the IK or any of the stuff you'd expect with a modern animation tool.
Yeah, we would have never finished TOA if we had to use the in-house tools. Just some key points here. Notice the difference in weight on things like the shell of the wings and the wing itself. How as it falls, it has that nice kind of gradual air resistance, whereas the shell pieces kind of flop forward. There's so much. Sorry, I could. Sorry, I love these animations so much, but there's just so much nuance. I'd love just to get that across to people, just like how much there's going on here that is just so subtle, and just all the cool things that we can do now once we have Maya. It's like now that we have just modern animation software, we can go in and add those little touches that just make things just yeah, so good.
Yeah. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Just push the time.
Cool.
So yeah, this is looking at some of the minions. Yeah, I mean, I think initially these were all planned to be part of the actual boss fight itself, but the way the mechanics changed over time, a few of them, I don't think they all got used in the end. So I think maybe some of the acid one, maybe I can't remember which ones specifically, but we did get most of them in the end. So yeah, if we move on to the next image to see some of these critters moving about.
Yeah, just grabbed a few animations of these guys. So this is like the melee attack.
For this one, I think. So I don't know if it was mentioned in last live stream, but I know that Major made the concept right, and she wanted how do you say it? The blades
pincers?
to be so they're actually dragon scimitars, and that's why they're the melee scarabs.
Yeah, it
so
was a
cool.
good reference.
Yeah. I totally see it now.
That shape down.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool detail. Like once you know it, it's like, oh, nice.
Yeah. That's so cool. Cool thing, I guess. Yeah, just showing these next three. I think are all the same animation, just cut across multiple scarab models, but just showing, the fact that like we can animate the same thing and transfer it across to multiple characters. We could do that before, but now that we have the whole proper animation system, it just makes this whole process so much easier. So you can see we made all the scarab models, but we only had to do the scarab animations once. So
yep. And shout out to Mod Skylight for the models themselves, Modjo for the concepts, and I believe these were animated by Mod Ghost. So yeah, fantastic job all around.
Yeah, seriously. Cool. Yeah, so we can move on to the next boss, I think, is
our favourite little croc, or big croc. Cool. So what's our first animation? I know we got into exploration first, don't we? Yeah. Oh, I love some of this exploration. Some really good sketches there.
Yeah, I love these. So this is all. So I think Mudgrub did the final concepts, but Mudgrub did a lot of the exploration. I love some of these. I remember when I was sitting with her and we were initially looking at this, and I think I was bringing up a lot of, if people know Godzilla, Biolante was a big reference for some of the early Zebak concepts, but then I think we ended up going away from the exaggerated giant mouth to something a bit more grounded. But yeah, she did some awesome work here. I love these little sketches. Again, like I said, I wanted to throw in a bunch of little sketches that maybe people haven't seen, like the amount of exploration we end up going through to get to the final product. I think is always super fascinating. So
yeah,
I think love the one at the top where it says Form 1. It's so cool.
I think the initial the three like 10 by 10 images there, where they're sort of like next to each other. I think the initial design for the croc was that it was going to like sort of move around the island and appear in different places. I think we realized technically that would have been quite difficult to achieve, and mechanically it would be quite confusing as well. So we ended up being quite a stationary Zebak in the end. But yeah, it's just awesome to see how it evolved and went through other times. And we talk about that massive gullet it had as well. It sort of comes out in some of the animations anyway. Seeing all those as it does that sort of vomit attack.
For sure. Cool. So yeah, some animations. Mod Ghost again, amazing job. Love the fact that we were able to do death animations that, I don't know, West, I think maybe you'll be able to speak to this, but I don't know if any boss that has the death animation that has them, sit there static at the end. This like triumph.
I was thinking about this. I mean, I guess you kind of have that with Elvarg, where you sort of reach over and cut its head off, but it's more of a cutscene, and I don't think it persists afterwards. But yeah, having those sort of like, just being able to walk around the environment and the boss is still there, just sort of like defeated. Yeah, it's such an awesome moment, and such a cool way to sort of like finish off that fight.
Yeah, I know. Mod Ghost ended up looking at a lot of crocodile reference for this, getting the motions right. This is an interesting one. So a technical challenge was people don't know, we can only make NPCs an equal size on both X and Y tiles. So the game's tile based. And we can only make NPCs, you know, a 3x3, a 4x4, 5x5 tile size. So Crocodile is obviously a lot longer than something that's square. So it was, you know, that limitation kind of made it a bit difficult. So what we ended up doing is splitting Zebak into 2 NPCs. So when you're actually fighting him, you're actually seeing 2 NPCs, you know, front and back. So we had to split up all his animations into Zebak 01 and Zebak 02, which 01 being the head and 02 being the tail, and all the animations had to be in sync with each other. So it was actually quite a technical challenge to get this giant, long crocodile in an engine that really likes things to be nice and square. Yeah.
I think there was
really clever.
There's like a slight bug on one of the days where both of the pieces got turned around the other way, which made it look like he was disconnected to his tail in not the way you'd hope he would be. Which just goes to show how technically that was achieved. Yeah, I'm seeing from the comments that people didn't realize that this is how it was achieved. So yeah, it's good to know that the effect worked and was successful in that regards.
Yeah.
So yeah, stuff. So yeah, moving on to Baba, Guardian of Atmacan. Baba. So yeah, so let's look at some of the exploration we have for her. Cool, yeah. So as you can see, some of the sketches there on the right from ModGrub. He's sort of like, looking at how a monkey. Well, I suppose a bit of a conversation here to talk about the difference between a mandrill and a and a baboon, because there's lots of baboons and mandrill confusion inside the world of Gillinor, which I always thought was quite interesting. I guess we kind of solved that issue a little bit by removing the skin from the face entirely, but I think it's still technically a mandrill.
I believe so. I believe so. I'll say that I believe the NPC is called NPC Mandrill. So,
yeah, I think that's what I was told when I made them first. But then now they're all called baboon. It's really funny though. Like when me and my friend do that room, like everything we say as soon as we get into the monkey room is just baboon, baboon, and then this is my favorite boss visually, and like. But in the boss room, it's actually so annoying. Like, I keep dying to those rocks all the time. But yeah, you gotta appreciate the good design of it, right? And also, the concept was made by ModGrub. Looks really cool. And the model, sadly, Mod Skylark is sick, so she couldn't make it to this stream. But I know that she wanted to mention that it was really fun to make this model because she did it. And she said that making the zombie intensities, I can't say that word.
The intestine.
Yes. She said it was really fun to make, and yeah, to be fair, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Again,
love how it's
Mod Ghost on the animations on this. So
yeah, amazing work. I think there was initially a plan to do something with the chains, but I think we had to cut them in the end.
So I purposefully left the chains as they were animated, just to make that point that a weird little fun fact that originally we were going to animate the chains. In fact, we were going to simulate them. We were going to do physics simulations and run them through some fancy schmancy stuff. To be honest, we just ran out of time. We were just it was a nice to have. It was a nice cherry on top, and sometimes you just have to go, well, it's not worth time. So I think we ended up just deleting them. That was literally we weighed up how long it would take to actually fix it and do it properly, and we just didn't think it was worth it. I also specifically chose this angle to show. It's a little hard to see. It was actually kind of hard to get on camera, but there is a really nice, speaking of intestine, a really nice secondary motion that Mod Ghost put on the guts and stuff inside there. Kind of sways around, and kind of has a really nice weight to it, a nice kind of just almost like contraction as well as it goes up and down. So again, I'm a big Mod Ghost fanboy. I'm not gonna lie, he's pretty cool. he's a pretty cool guy, and so his animations are just really cool. Oh wow.
This is one of my favorite images, I think.
Yeah, so it's going to the minions. Yeah.
When I started on Oldschool, this was my absolute, my first task, and it was a challenging one because I was still kind of trying to learn what the Oldschool style is. It was It was fun. I don't know what to say about it, but it was fun. And concept by Modjerv and Modgrub, I think. Right? I think they did some each.
Yeah. I think Grub did the initial winged one on the top left, and then I believe Modjerv did the other ones. We can also see some early ideas we had with the stack of baboons, which it was unfortunately something we couldn't really afford in the end because it would require an entirely unique base file, and we're trying to keep these somewhat cheap by utilizing a similar rig that Baba used. But yeah, you can see sort of some exploration there. There's even, I mean, it might not be totally visible, but there's a sketch in the top of the middle where, as you can see, she's getting a bit crazy with the amount of baboons that were stacked. And of course, on the far right, we've got the the trench coat baboon, which is just it's just wonderful. Just a great bit of funny artwork there.
Yeah, the winged baboon originally, or mandrill, whatever we ended up calling them. The winged version was an idea we initially had at the outset. That was we were going to make them kind of bird. Baboon, like winged monkeys, think Wizard of Oz kind of thing, and lean into that with kind of nesting and twigs and kind of, people are going to get angry, fecal matter and stuff like that kind of used to build the nest, but we ended up having to, I feel like it's obligatory, I have to say poo at least once per stream. The idea was they were going to be more... Right. Yeah, exactly. My quota is done, so I don't have to talk about it anymore. But that was where that winged version came from. Really, really cool. And again, I put these in here just to show, again, this is the same, walk animation that Mod Ghost did for Baba, and just with the whole animation system, we can just swap them out. We can just make as many variants as we want and just put them to the same skeleton. It's modern tech. It's it's cool that we're able to use kind of and maybe it's silly to other people, like, oh look, we can do all this stuff. But it's like, well, it's old school, but we can use kind of modern game techniques. It's just really cool. It's like really, it just makes our life so much easier. And it makes me happy. So I put it in.
It's all great work. It's good to see it.
Yeah, you did great job. Cool. Akkha.
On to Akkha.
Akkha.
Yeah,
Akkha.
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 I'm sure someone's cringing at the way we pronounce it. I mean, I say Akkha.
Akkha, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say Akkha too, so I don't feel weird.
This one is also so cool.
Yeah. God,
I love the how we can get in this detail in the old school style and still make it look old school. I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
It's quite it's an interesting one as well, because out of obviously the four main bosses, it's the one human. It doesn't have the sort of creature element to it, so trying to make this one stand out amongst the lineup was quite an interesting problem that Modgrub had to solve, and I think he solved it amazingly. Everything about this character is just so cool. And I mean, I remember when we first showed it as well, there was some concern over the detail, but I don't think we quite put across the scale of his size, being like, I mean, he's 3x3. I don't know what that would make him in foot, maybe like 12 to 15 foot tall, which is
something like that. Yeah,
it's quite big. So it's good. It's good work.
Yeah, I have some words from Mod Skylark, so I'm just gonna read this off what she said. Because she's sick and could sadly not make it, but she did, like, both Grub and Skylark did such an amazing job bringing this concept and model to life. So yeah, it would be nice to have them say how you say it. So Akkha was the first boss that Skylark worked on, and so achieving the same level of detail as the concept was a new challenge, especially given how low poly old school is. There was also the challenge of making sure that as a humanoid, we didn't overdo the details and make sure that he still fits in with the rest of the game and its characters. He used to be a bit smaller, but we decided to scale him up to make sure he still feels intimidating even as a human figure, which definitely helped, and players seemed to be a big fan. Mod Ghost also worked on Akkha, giving him unique animations that really brought him to life. In addition to his cool battle stances, he gave Akkha a mouth box, which really helped him show expressions during a fight. And honestly, they all three done such an amazing job. I love this boss. Apart, it can be hard to fight, you know, but like visually, I keep dying in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so
that final phase will get you.
yeah, it's fun. I do think it's a cool concept, but this is about art. Yeah, it looks really cool, and honestly, like I feel like with this raid, we just taken old school to such a next level, like make complicated stuff, but it still looks old school. And yeah, like as Skylar said, this is her first boss. Honestly, this looks amazing. Like as a first boss, it's so cool. Like you could never guess that this was her first boss made.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep, fantastic work.
Yeah, really did an amazing job. Jeez.
Cool. I think is that the last animation of Akkha? Are we on to?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is just I know that Mod Ghost did a lot of research on competitive spear fighting. That was his primary reference for spear techniques. Like
he had all the names down for like how to hold the spear, because he had to go from like holding it front ways to I can't remember the terminology he used, but and how he like twist. He has to like in some of the animation just to like twist the spear down to like throw it down into the magic attack. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I guess spoilers going on to the final boss. If you haven't finished the raid, then spoilers, you're gonna get spoiled. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. Hey, here's the Wardens. So, concept by Mod Grub, did absolutely amazing job. You see some of the reference up there in the original pre-production. Some shout out to Shadow Colossus. Good game. Some really cool stuff here. Mod Grub really, I think, really hit it out of the park. So I guess this next part is all about the Wardens, which was my main area. That's for the last like 2 months of the project, I basically just sat down and was on this. So yeah, just I guess again, previous slide showing the pre-production that we were planning. This was a board that I ended up making. This was a set of this might look a bit confusing, but basically I was going through all the different states that the Wardens could be in and trying to plan everything out and go, these are the actual animations we need. This is exactly what this is going to be. Just kind of mapping it out, just getting it visual so that I could understand, but then also I could communicate that to other people, because I guess people might not understand, but when you go into this, we have the mechanics kind of figured out, but they're constantly evolving, and it's a case of you get put onto a project and it's or onto a boss, and it really is quite a task to understand exactly what is involved with creating a character. You kind of have to work backwards and saying, it needs to do all these things, and how I'm, the kind of character I'm going to make it throughout that, throughout those different mechanics and planning it all out. So this is just, one of the many, planning documents that ended up getting made for all this. This was just a really rough little thing that I wanted to throw in, just some funny little sketches here and there. So all throughout the process. What's interesting to note here is that the middle concept there, the one of the environment, you'll see that is an older version of the Warden's environment. Initially, the Warden's environment didn't have the troughs of blood kind of running from the obelisk going out to the different charging platforms. That was actually something that came in quite late, and it was really a necessity. You can see my really rough version on the right side and the bottom right corner, and then Modjerv kind of stepped in and did some modifications to the environment. Throughout the entire process, we're constantly talking to concept, and we're getting things kind of changed and trying to kind of flesh out what this this story is, because we have all those planning documents we did a year ago, and it's we really sat down and fleshed things out, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, it's like yes, we understand what this room is, but trying to understand how we communicate different mechanics and giving us the avenues to play with in animation and effects. Sometimes we need to go in and add a bit, just that extra layer deep. You know what I mean? with the concepts in the environment. So yeah, just threw in some little sketches there. Thought that was kind of interesting. Soffan, you want to talk to this?
Yeah, so I'll quickly go over the model stage, I suppose. So the concept was made by ModGrub, and I got to get the pleasure to bring it to life, and it was honestly really fun. Before it was my first boss in Oldschool. I made plenty of bosses before though, but not in Oldschool graphics, so it was a complete new challenge. Usually when you make a boss, you do a high resolution sculpt in a software called ZBrush, but for Oldschool, it's not really necessary. I did feel like, however, I was more comfortable to make it in a sculpt first. So I tried to. I think I spent a day and a half on the sculpt just to quickly get shapes up, and then try to build a quick base on top of that. I'm not sure if it was the best choice, but I do think it saved me a lot of time on the skulls. So I think a big challenge with Wardens was to translate all the skulls from this concept and to actually make them like fit in, like, because there's so many, but they still have to like look good on the boss while not being like too cluttery, not too much and not too few. So making all the skulls was a real challenge. Yeah, it's very different from like the background I come from, working more like high resolution stuff, but it's actually really fun. It feels like when I make old school graphics, it feels like I make pixel art, like, but in 3D, which is quite fun. And there's like, if you're familiar with art, we don't have like UV mapping or like textures in that way, so it saves a lot of time. And yeah, if you want a detail, you can't. Usually you can UV map it and you can add the details in it. But if you want a detail or like a shadow, you have to actually make it a polygon, which is all the. So a polygon, if you're not aware what that is all the squares and triangles that a model is built up of. And I'm gonna spare you guys of time on this because I could go on about how art is made for hours, and I think you all would fall asleep. But yeah, I have no words of how amazing you, Mod Brow. Like, when I saw you bring like Warden's animations to life, I was like, holy shit, how can we make this in old school? Like, it was really cool. Yeah, this is a turnaround render that I made of the Warden's model just to show it off. I did not get down to have time to render the other Wardens, but I did both. But yeah, so this one's the only one that I have a high resolution render of, sadly. But yeah, I really enjoyed making them.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that you did this Warden. It's like you'll see in all my other videos that I have coming up. They all use this Warden as well, because I don't know. I like the other Warden too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I guess he was just a fun one to use for presentation, and he's the one I animated everything to. But yeah, here's some fancy renders of the animations. So yeah, this is the initial wake up. So yeah, I guess just speaking to this. So just trying to really the kind of overarching story here is just I just wanted to try to make it seem like, man, this thing has been here for a long time. He's kind of almost glued to the floor, just kind of either connected to the charging port that he's standing on, or it's just been so long that all the dust and age has just left him kind of glued to the floor. Anyway, I thought it was a cool contrast of kind of motion, right? It's like something coming alive, but then still kind of stuck. So yeah. I just went to the last frame of him just dead. That was funny.
I love that part.
Yeah. This is a fun one. Yeah. So yeah, this is, for people who don't know, this is when the core falls out of him, then you have to attack the core. But yeah, really wanted to have that decapitation in there. So I just thought it was kind of cool to that image of his head just kind of rolling off his shoulders and just falling down was kind of a cool idea. Yeah.
It's cool to see them like this, because in game, like, you're so focused on like switching gear, like getting ready to attack the core, and so you don't really have time to like pay attention on how good the animations actually are. But when you see it like this, you're like, holy shit, like next time I'll do the boss, I'll look at them more. They're really cool.
There's a funny trivia thing here where, you know, like I said before, everything has to be within a certain tile radius, and the wardens are no different. I think they were 5 by 5, something like that. And so I had 5 by 5 tiles of in-game space to work with, and to have the head fall off and do that kind of roll, that is the reason why he takes the step back, if I'm being honest. So he leans forward when his core is out, but as soon as he's ready to die and his head to fall off, I make him take kind of a step back. There's no other reason other than to give me space for the head to roll forward. I made it more like, oh, I guess he's shocked, or maybe he's just, you know, flabbergasted, reeling from the attack of his core being attacked. But really, it's just so I could have his head fall off. I wanted his head to fall off real bad. Yeah. Speaking of core, there's a little GIF of the core. I just thought I'd throw it in. Just a little note of like, very consciously made the glow underneath to feel like roughly a heart shape, but also I did look at some I'm gonna say I looked at some hearts as they beat. I looked at what's that thing at like hospitals where it's like beep beep and then beep. I can't remember. Cardiograph maybe. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But yeah, I made it like that. I looked at a cardiograph and just made it kind of
cardiogram maybe. That's what the chat's saying.
Cardiogram. There you go. So yeah, I told you I'm not a doctor. Yeah, made it beat like a heart. Sorry, I'm just getting fancy. I'm just talking fancy. I made it beat like a heart. That was kind of the idea. This idea of like you're attacking its soul. You know, its source of power. So I thought heart kind of fit that bill. And then yeah, the audio guys came in and gave it a nice heartbeat sound effect that synced up with that. And man, when that came in, I was like, oh,
yeah.
so good. So good.
Someone from the chat as well is like noticing that it looks like a canopic jar as well, which, you know, the idea that it could have the guts and organs of these you know, people that it is referencing were Ledinus and Tumakan. So yeah, it's a cool little Egyptian reference there.
Yeah, I believe that absolutely was what we were referencing with those as well. So yeah, here's some. So on top of the Warden's animations, I also did the effects as well. So I guess just trying to. It feels funny to try to spell out the story of like what each of these things mean, because each of these is trying to tell something. You know, that's just what I try to do with all everything I do, I guess. But you know, animation-wise, just trying to tell a story. The whole idea is that, you know, Amascut is sending down these little drone type devices. You'll see that these are the same devices that are used that are siphoning the energy out of the Pantheon when they're in the back of the room of each boss room. So I tried to use these for the effects as much as possible. I'll say that this one I had to actually, the other one, but yeah, I tried to use them as much as possible in the effects. See, actually, this is an earlier version where we were going to use the bird for Tumakan. I couldn't get a good hippo hieroglyph, so I think we ended up using Ixlarin and Amascut symbols, which are just inversions of each other. So there's a wiki trivia at the bottom of the page thing for you. Yeah. I don't know if they became too sci-fi. I don't know. Lasers are cool, but you know, ancient Egyptian machines. I don't know. It all kind of seemed to work.
Yeah, it was something that we did talk about a bit throughout the well, the fact that they're automatons in general, it's already quite a, you know, sci-fi meets fantasy. But I think it's a fairly understood trope in terms of, you know, fantasy games. So.
Yeah, I remember. I think when the first streams of it went out, I just saw that, like, as soon as people saw the Warden's chamber with all the different things going on, they're like, ancient aliens, ancient aliens. So I think people understood it. I guess. Maybe showing some. This is I threw this in. This is actually a prototype of that first effects you saw where the laser kind of shoots his chest. This was actually a prototype that I did where I was still trying to figure out, I guess, what this effect should be. This was an idea that like Amascut was opening up a portal underneath them and like kind of like hitting them with a bunch of like magic missiles or something like that. We ended up, this actually for some reason didn't export correctly or something like that. I couldn't get it to work properly, so I ended up coming up with the whole ancient aliens thing, I guess, ancient Egyptian devices coming down from the ceiling motif that we ended up going with. But yeah, just threw that in there just for trivia nerds, which I am very much a trivia nerd. Yeah, cool. So this, yeah. Sorry guys. I'm probably gonna talk a bit for these next things. If people don't like my voice, maybe just mute the stream
We love
for the
your
next
voice, Mod
5
Don't
minutes.
worry about it.
But yeah. So with modern game tech, with modern animation tech, comes physics simulations. So keen eyes might have noticed we use physics simulations across a lot of the raids, a lot of the TOA raids. So I think Zebak's jar that he shoots and hits the ceiling and explodes, that's a physics simulation. The exploding monkey in the Ab McKen room, that's a simulation. The exploding scarab beetle, that's a simulation. And I think it all kind of started with this one. I think this was the first one I ended up doing, and then kind of working out the workflow, which I then me and Mod Ghost kind of got it working on all the other stuff, utilizing it as much as we could. But so I guess cast your mind all the way back to 5 minutes ago when I showed the initial concept of the Wardens, where we had the together the complete Warden and then the Warden without its legs, which is the final phase. And so we had this version of the Warden in its final form where it has no legs, and the story, because from my point of view, I get a concept that's a complete Warden with its legs and a version without its legs. My mind goes, how can I incorporate the legs and tell a story with the destruction of the legs, because they have to go somewhere. So these two videos kind of go through my idea. So initially the idea is, the obelisk or whatever lashes out, the energy becomes too much, and it shoots down the canal that's going to the charging port and overcharges this guy, and his legs just can't handle it and they crumble. Of course, once you go on to the final phase, the one that had its legs crumbled wakes up because it's not fully destroyed. Its core is still intact, or at least somewhat kind of in there. You can see some energy kind of flowing in there. I wanted to to have the legs be a part of the character, and so I did this initial sim rotation, and I thought this would be kind of cool to have in the final phase as well. So you'll see in the final phase he has an orbiting kind of debris field of his legs still around him, which you can see here. So his legs never left him; they just kind of took on a different form. And I just threw this one in just to show the orbiting leg debris. That was kind of a cool thing. I thought that would be kind of a cool through line, because that takes you from phase 1, and then they're on the ground in phase 2, and then in phase 3 they wake up and the leg debris kind of circles, and then in the final phase, you go to the final room and you've got the leg debris there. It's kind of with them. I like to think that they're just pissed that you broke their legs and they want to hurt you because of it.
Revenge.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. So that's kind of the physics simulation stuff. And this is going under the death animation. This is something I really wanted to put a lot of effort into. I spent quite a while working on this. So the idea of they're finally they're being this big finale. I really, if I'm honest with you, I was given the Wardens, the Wardens, and given roughly about 2 months to work on them, and I was a little scared, because I was like, I have to kind of make this climactic finale to the whole raid, and my thinking of doing that, or my idea of making it feel climactic, was to have a really satisfying death animation. So I wanted to have this, kind of came up with this kind of rough idea of him disintegrating and breaking apart, and getting sucked into the back of the room. I didn't really have this idea of what was actually devouring them at the time, but just this idea of them kind of breaking apart. This kind of he's going for the punch, and then he realizes his fist is breaking apart, and he's like, ah, yeah, just describe
I
what
think
you're
this
seeing on
is the
screen.
most amazing animation in the whole raid.
Mm.
It's really cool and detailed. What do you feel like was the most challenging thing making those animations?
I think just getting the doing it. No, like really it was actually the logistics of it, because I threw this in here. So this is a weird early prototype of what I kind of envisioned for maybe what was devouring them in the back of the room. So I won't say what in the final is going on, because it's a bit of a secret. But this was an idea that I had. Well, maybe there's like a portal that opens up that they get kind of sucked into. But I guess to answer your question, I guess what was the most challenging thing? I think it was really the logistics of, like, I have this idea of, okay, they're going to go for the punch, get stopped, and just get kind of, pulled apart as they fly to the back of the room. And it was just kind of blocking that out and understanding what that was. And then, then figuring out how to break them up, chunk them up into different pieces, and have that, feel kind of organic, feel right. It was a really big learning experience, just figuring out exactly, because every step, I actually hand animated the whole punch and then falling backwards, and then I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to get all these chunks to fly to the back of the room, and then how do I make them look like they're getting sucked into a portal, and then the final, the finishing touches on the final animation that have the wind streaks kind of creating a vortex, and all the little nice touches at the end. There's a lot of logistics, and I'll say this: there's something really interesting here. Again, for the nerds out there, you'll see the numbers 1 to 5 on the floor. Exactly what I was talking about before. We can only render what's inside a tile, and so maybe you're thinking, how the heck did he get it to go across 5 sets of tiles? How did he make it go to the back of the room? I'm sure no one's actually thought that, but this was the design challenge that I had, where I'm like, well, I wanted to go to the back of the room. The answer to it is we had to spawn 5 identical NPCs at the time of death, and then play this animation on it with the offset of each NPC added to it. So what you're seeing in the final is actually this times 5. But across 5 different NPCs, all with a different offset. So in the end, it just looks like one seamless animation that just goes to the back of the room, but actually I'm just doing some really hacky stuff to make it actually render outside the tile. So that's, again, trivia wiki, get on it. Get on
I remember you doing that, and we were discussing like the potential of having them all like lined up next to each other, and how that would work, and whether that would render properly, especially between the 2 different clients we have. So the fact that all worked and it looks seamless is amazing.
I'm shocked. I'm still shocked that it kind of worked. But there you go.
Yeah, so we are running quite low on time. We didn't quite get to the rewards, which is a bit of a shame, but I have a feeling that we don't have a chance to go beyond 6 o'clock. So potentially in the future we can talk about the rewards in a bit more detail. Maybe do like a reward stream in general, just talk about player kit and all those various elements in the process of collaborating and getting feedback with the players and all that lovely stuff. So yeah, I think we have something to show at the end of the stream here, which I. Oh, yeah. So yeah, bye to everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Mod Brow and Mod Soffan for joining me here, and Mod Spear in the background to get it all working. And should I go through any of the announcements, or should we just go straight to the roots? Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and here's a little something before we end.
A long time ago, there was a person who went by the name of Matt K. While working on the game, he had an idea one day. He wanted to create a treasure hunt harder than anyone knew, so he decided to create Crack the Clue 1 and 2. The first hunt was released and ended in a success. It took longer to solve than anyone would guess. The second one went by a bit too quick, as players realized they could just use the brute force trick. Now Jagex wanted to create something even more difficult, so the search started to find someone else to consult. finally they found the one after looking far across the sea. My name is Wooks, and I'm the designer behind Crack the Clue 3.